Okay, welcome back, folks. We're going to get back to our planning stage here. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to think about how are we going to display the game board on the screen. The pieces, that's really easy. We can just use a single character, an X or an O. An empty piece could just be a space. So the board itself can be a vector of characters, of cars. Because we'll have X, O, or space, all of which are characters. So our board will be a vector of cars. Now, how are we going to represent our tic-tac-toe board? Well, let's just do a little drawing here. Now, a tic-tac-toe board looks like this. You should all already know this. I'm sure you all played tic-tac-toe as children. If you have children, I'm sure you have played tic-tac-toe with them. Okay, the tic-tac-toe board looks like this. And when a player makes a move, they put their X or their O in one of the squares. Each of these squares, okay, how many do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 squares on the tic-tac-toe board, so our vector should have 9 elements. Each square on the board will correspond to an element in the vector. For example, this would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Each square, each position on the board will be represented by a number from 0 to 8. This means the vector will have 9 elements, giving it positions numbers 0 through 8. Each move indicates a square where a piece should be placed, and a move is also just a number, 0 to 8. Okay, that means that our move can be represented as an int. Now, the side the player and the computer play can also be represented by a car, either an X or an O, just like the game piece. A variable to represent the side of the current term would also be a car, either an X or an O. So that figures out how we're going to represent the game, what it's going to look like. And so now, what we need to think about are what functions do we need. Okay, we need to think about what the program is going to do in the different parts. Okay, we know that we need to create an empty tic-tac-toe board. We need to display game instructions. Now, to create the tic-tac-toe board, do we necessarily want a function to do that? And this is part of our main function, so we will just do this inside our main function. Now, to display the game instructions, we may want to change those and not have to dig through our main function to find out how to change them. So we should probably have a function for displaying the instructions. Okay, we'll need a function to ask yes or no. And that we'll send a prompt to that, a string called question. And, we can see that it receives a question as its argument, and then it will return either a yes or a no. We need an integer to ask a number. Okay, we're going to have it ask for a number within a range. Our range is going to be 0 to 8. It receives a question, a low number and a high number, and it returns a number in a range from low to high. And we'll have a default argument there of 0. Next, we need a function for the human piece to represent the human piece. That will return either an X or an O. Now we need one to... Actually, the ask number is going to determine who goes first. The computer will pick a number, and the player will choose a number to try to get the upper piece, the upper hand. All right. Next, we need a function for our opponent piece. And we'll send that the character piece. It receives either an X or an O. Basically, if the human is an X, it sends X. So the program knows to set the computer as O. Okay, so that determines the pieces, who goes first. Next, we need to display the board. So we'll have a void display board, which will send a const vector reference so we'll have a constant reference to a character vector that we'll call board. We'll put some comments here. It returns the human's piece either X or O. Determines the computer's piece. And it receives an X or an O as an argument. Okay, display board displays the board on the screen, and it receives the game board. Okay, next we need a function to determine the game winner. And it's going to receive a reference to the game board. And it will return X, O, T for tie, or N to indicate that nobody has won yet. Next, we will need to determine when the human makes their move, if it's a valid move. So we'll have a Boolean, is legal. And it will refer to our board. Okay, so this function is going to receive our our vector reference to the board. It's also going to receive an integer, which would be the character the humans move. And I'm not going to make a note here that it returns true or false. That's inherent to the bool. Now we need a function to go ahead and get the move. Human move as an integer. We'll send it the game board, or a reference to the game board. And the car, human. Gets the human's move, receives a board, and the human's piece. And it will return the human's move. Next, we need the computer's move. And this time we're sending the entire character vector as a board, and the computer's piece. It receives a board and the computer's piece, and it returns the computer's move. I think the last function we need is to announce the winner. And this function is going to receive the winner, the computer's piece, and the human's piece. Okay, so that covers our functions, and I've put those in with my pseudocode because I'll just go ahead and build my program around this. This way, I'm doing all of my work in one file. This isn't always going to work for you. Sometimes you may have to use separate text files or even Word documents or drawings or things like that. But in this case, this is the easiest way. It makes the most sense because it keeps everything together, and then I can just build on what I have here. So in our next program, we'll start fleshing this out and actually doing our coding. So stay tuned for that.